International, Okeechobee, Florida, USA, and www.wrmi.net. Send us your comments and reception reports to info@wrmi.net or by regular mail to WRMI, P.O. Box 526-852, Miami, Florida 33152, USA.
And a very warm welcome to you. This is the EU News Network transmitting from Nicosia. 15 minutes of news, features and comments. This week we will be taking an in-depth look at the RAF strikes taking place on Iraq from a base on Cyprus. Plus we'll have all of the local and international headlines coming up over the next 15 minutes.
This program from the EU News Network is produced in association with the Prima Vista Gazette.
EU News Network. Cyprus has beefed up its security amid fears of terrorist reprisals after the British Royal Air Force on the island began strikes on militants this week. RAF Tornado jets based on the island have been given permission to conduct combat operations against ISIS by the Cypriot government. This has raised concerns that the island is now a potential target. Residents of the west coast of Cyprus need not watch television news channels to know that a major military operation is underway. The deafening roar of British fighter jets coming and going from the British base in Akrotiri can be heard for miles around. By Tuesday afternoon, 4 days after London gave the green light for airstrikes in Iraq, the first combat mission ever conducted from Cyprus was confirmed by the British Defence Secretary, Michael Fallon.
Well, I can confirm that the RAF were in action today in support of the Iraqi government in northwest Iraq. 2 GR4 Tornadoes from RAF Akrotiri were tasked to assist Kurdish troops who were under attack by ISIL terrorists.
The fight against ISIS has proved to be a turning point in British Cypriot relations. The military bases, which have been here since London granted independence to the island in 1960, have always been a source of friction between the two countries. Most Cypriots have previously said they would like to see them shut down. Some opposition parties maintain that Cyprus should not be used as a base for any war. However, with the expanding power and influence of ISIS creeping closer to these shores, their value is now becoming apparent. The Cypriot Minister of Defence, Christoforos Fakidis, said Nicosia wanted to play its part in the international fight against IS in Iraq and Syria. He said that the strike should not create panic, and Cyprus wishes to contribute to the fight against terrorism, which he said is a threat to humanity, and therefore Cyprus as well. Even though police are taking all necessary security measures, the threat of reprisals from ISIS is causing genuine concern, not just amongst the general public, but also the thousands of tourists that visit here every month. The island is just 90 kilometers from the Syrian coast, and local media have reported that the Islamic State is already eyeing Cyprus. Well, joining us now on the EU News Network is Nicosia-based correspondent Rosie Haralambous. Rosie, how are Cypriots reacting to the Royal Air Force action? Do you think there is any concern?
Well, I think, Nathan, that depends very much who you speak to. There is, of course, some concern, and there are mutterings about the British involving Cyprus in a war that we'd rather stay out of. On the other hand, our foreign minister is on record as saying that Cyprus must be a part of this coalition against terror forces and jihadists, and both the Minister of Justice and the Defence Minister have spoken up this week to reassure the public that security has been stepped up and there is nothing to fear. I think that people do worry whether or not there will be an attempt to retaliate in some way, particularly in the vicinity of the Akrotiri British base from which the British sorties are being flown. But on the other hand, I think we all know as well that nowhere is really safe in this day and age.
And Cyprus is not immune to this kind of threat, is it? This sort of thing has happened before.
Well, I don't think anywhere's immune in this day and age, and people are on their guard. I think it was back in 1988 that we last had a terrorist attack on Cypriot soil when two members of the Abu Nidal Palestinian organization made an attempt to get a bomb-laden vehicle to the Israeli embassy. The car was turned away, but the bomb did go off just a few minutes later, killing the driver and a couple of nearby Cypriots. People are aware that this has happened, but it doesn't happen very often in Cyprus, and that's possibly why a lot of people are a little jittery.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Rosie Haralandis. Well, she did mention in that interview that the foreign minister had said that Cyprus is on the front line in the fight against terrorism. We can hear the comments of the Cypriot foreign minister. This is Yannis Kasselidis.
Indeed, Cyprus considers itself as being the front line of the European Union and indeed of the Western world security architecture, facing a volatile world in the Middle East, but we feel the threat ourselves as being so close.
That is Yannis Kasselidis, and this is the EU News Network. That story again, if you've just tuned in. Cyprus has beefed up its security amid fears of terrorist reprisal after the British Royal Air Force on the island began strikes on militants from ISIS in Iraq this week.
This program from the EU News Network is produced in association with the Famagusta Gazette. The Famagusta Gazette, the leading online news source for Southern Europe, with breaking news headlines and features from Cyprus, Greece, Turkey, and the entire region. The Famagusta Gazette, a trusted source of news and information since 2007. Stay up to date. www.famagusta-gazette.com.
The president of the Spanish region of Catalonia has signed a decree calling for a referendum on independence. Artur Mas wants Catalonia to hold a Scottish-style vote on the 9th of November, but does not have the backing of the central government in Madrid. Spain quickly denounced the move, calling the plan unconstitutional. The EU's Energy Commissioner is hopeful of a deal between Ukraine and Russia to end the dispute over gas deliveries after three-way talks in Berlin. The EU outlined a plan which would see Russia supply Ukraine over the winter and into the spring next year. Ukraine would pay Russia $2 billion of its gas debt by the end of October and another $1.1 billion by the year's end. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas has accused Israel of carrying out a war of genocide in Gaza during his speech at the UN General Assembly. Mr. Abbas said Israeli war crimes in Gaza should be punished, but stopped short of saying that he would take the issue to the International Criminal Court. His speech brought strong condemnation from Israel and from the United States, which described it as being offensive. The 50-day conflict left around 2,100 Palestinians and 73 Israelis dead. U.S. car giant Ford says it's recalling around 850,000 cars in North America over a potential issue with airbags. The car maker said the glitch could cause a short circuit that may mean airbags don't deploy properly in the event of a crash. The vehicles affected include some 2013 14 C-Max Fusion, Escape and Lincoln MKZ models. The date has been fixed for Europe's daring attempt to land on a comet. It will take place on Wednesday, the 12th of November. It will see the Rosetta satellite, which is currently orbiting the huge ice mountain known as 67P, drop a small robot from a height of 20 kilometers. If all goes well, the lander will freefall towards the comet, making contact with the surface somewhere in a 1 kilometer wide zone at around 3 in the afternoon. The European Space Agency says the challenges are enormous. Archbishop Chrysostomos II has arrived in Stuttgart in Germany for treatment after being diagnosed with severe back problems. The leader of the church has problems with the vertebrae of his spine. He underwent the tests after experiencing weakness in his right leg, according to an announcement from the church. Ashraf Ghani has been inaugurated as the new president of Afghanistan. He's the first new leader since the U.S. invasion of the country in late 2001. In his oath of office, Mr. Ghani pledged to obey Islam and protect the Constitution.
In the name of God, I would like to take the oath that with the respected religion of Islam to obey the respected religion of Islam, the Constitution and other laws to be observed. I shall take care of that.
Yesterday was World Heart Day, which is observed annually, and the WHO warned that consuming too much salt can lead to high blood pressure and generally increase the risk of heart problems, as Daniel Dickinson reports.
According to WHO, non-communicable diseases, including heart disease and stroke, are the leading causes of premature death in the 21st century. Dr. Temo Waganevalu is a non-communicable disease expert at WHO.
We need salt in our body. Currently, we get a lot of salt from processed foods, and that has increased the consumption of salt to the stage that it's linked to these diseases. That's why the WHO member states have come together, and based on the science and the evidence of its link to heart diseases, it has put out the recommendation that the population should reduce the average intake of salt per person to less than 5 grams of salt per day, which is about a teaspoon of salt.
The agency is supporting governments to implement a global action plan that includes the reduction of salt intake by 30% by the year 2025.
The British Chancellor George Osborne has told the Conservative Party conference that a future Conservative government would freeze benefits paid to people of working age for 2 years. Mr. Osborne said the proposed freeze, which would not include pensions or disability benefits or maternity pay, would save £3 billion. In his speech to the conference, he said it would be a serious contribution to reduce the deficits. Mr. Osborne also pledged to scrap the 55% tax rate on inherited pension funds.
There's a tax of 55% at the moment when you die with an unused part of your pension that you want to pass on to your children or grandchildren in most circumstances. And we are getting rid of that. And by the way, this isn't some promise for the future. This is effective today.
This program from the EU News Network is produced in association with the Famagusta Gazette. The Famagusta Gazette, the leading online news source for Southern Europe, with breaking news headlines and features from Cyprus, Greece, Turkey, and the entire region. The Famagusta Gazette, a trusted source of news and information since 2007. Stay up to date. www.famagusta-gazette.com.
You can find breaking news headlines on our website, news-network.eu. You can also contact us from there as well. From us all here at the EU News Network, until next week, goodbye.